Hello, everyone. This is the Astrofiend, and I thought I'd come and do a quote unquote New Year sort of 2021 podcast, I guess. And, yeah, just to let you know, I'm very skeptical about January 1st being the new year. I've written an astrology blog saying that, why in the dead of winter that we celebrate the new year. It makes no sense. A huge part of me feels like spring should be considered during the time when the new year officially starts, but I'll go along with it. It's not a completely horrible sort of thing for the new year to fall on January 1st, but at the same time it's just, I don't know, it's just odd. And I'm not really a sort of new year celebration type of person. I haven't been for, honestly, I don't think I've ever set a resolution before. Well, one that I took seriously. And other things too, I'm more of a new decade sort of person. I feel we should be excited more for the decade, because honestly, especially with 2020 and the pandemic, it's unpredictable. Years are unpredictable, but decades, so much things can happen in a decade. Last decade, I went to college, I graduated high school. Last decade, I traveled to Europe not once but twice. Last decade, I've been unemployed. I have gone through surgery. Decades, there are years that are going to be sucky, and there are years that are going to be great. I feel that we should focus more on decades, but decade may be too long, so maybe every 2.5 years. By the way, 2.5 years is Saturn cycles. So as some of you already know, Saturn, I mean, technically in 2020 it retrograded into Saturn in Aquarius in March 21st, 2020, but then it went back into Capricorn, and now it's in officially in Saturn in Aquarius. So yay, I guess. So maybe we should celebrate Saturn years, every 2.5 years, we just see where we are, because Saturn is a metric. And to be honest, to make the debate for January 1st being the new year, January 1st is peak Capricorn season, and the month of January is also Aquarius season. And as some of you know, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Uranus is also ruled by Saturn, but that's the traditional ruler. The more modern ruler, Aquarius is ruled traditionally by Saturn, but the more modern ruler is Uranus. So a lot of astrologers, they just go with Uranus, but I'm more of both rulers, co-rulers. Just I would say that Pluto, Scorpio is ruled by both Pluto and its traditional ruler Mars, and Neptune, Pisces, is ruled by both its modern ruler Neptune and the traditional ruler, which is Jupiter. I consider both sort of signs, so it's history and more modern era sort of thing, because a lot of these planets are like transpersonal, like, and like transpersonal planets, and like also considered outer planets. Like Aquarius having two rulers, in my opinion, like it's considered an outer planet and a transpersonal planet, maybe even a generational planet, because in astrology Uranus is a slower moving planet. So like, you know how like the sun in astrology like is about 30 days, like Uranus takes much longer. So that's why it's considered more of a transpersonal planet, because a lot more people are affected because they have the same Uranus sign. And that applies also to like Neptune and Pluto, like those sort of things. And I think Saturn can be like both, because with a Saturn cycle is like 2.5 years, and like a lot of people do share the same Saturn signs, but it's within like 2.5 years. So someone within like the 2.5 year age range like will be celebrating like not, I don't know if I'll call it celebrating, but going through their Saturn return, which by the way is what I'm doing now. And honestly, I have no opinions of it. Like, I mean, I have opinions, but I'm just not necessarily keeping it to myself, but I am, just trying to take it in, just trying to learn. And let me tell you, like, I would just say, let me just like go quickly back to like reflecting, quote unquote, on the new year, rolling my eyes. But yeah, 2020 wasn't bad for me at all. Like, other than the pandemic, which is like very serious, like I felt very optimistic and creative during 2020, which is like, I consider myself a writer, even though like I don't like write professionally, you know what I mean? So, quote unquote, that doesn't count. No, it does count, just not the way you think. But I consider myself like a writer, but more on like a sort of personal level. And I just felt creative. Like during the pandemic time, like I felt so much creativity. That's why I was able to produce so much songs during that time. Like I was writing songs, editing, finding the beats, everything. And it was a fun process. Like, I'm more of like an introverted person. Like not all my planets, but a lot of my planets fall into like water houses, and also the 5th house, but water houses. So I have planets in the 8th house, I have planets in the 4th house. I have not a planet, but an asteroid in like the 12th house. So a lot of like my energy is like directed on an emotional sort of level, I guess. And yeah, it's like on an emotional sort of level. So during this time I was able to like go like inward and just like feel like more creative. And when I started working back again, because my job was like, well, everyone's job was locked down for like 6 months, which is crazy. But when I got back to work, like I honestly felt optimistic. And part of the reason is just like my experiences in like 2019. In 2019 was going good for me. Then a few months into like 2019, I would say like maybe like the last half of 2019, I like went through like a serious injury, and in that serious injury required surgery. And during this time, like It was traumatic, honestly. But like during this time, like I couldn't work for a couple of months, so like technically that was my lockdown. So, and to be honest, like the beginning of 2020, like at some point towards the end of 2020, I was able to like resume my life, even though like I was still not completely healed, and even now I'm not completely healed. But like in the beginning of 2020, I was still like going like through with like the aftermath of like my surgery and my injury. Like I was still like going to doctor's appointments like on a monthly basis. And like when I tell you, I literally didn't really start healing until the week before the pandemic. Like, well, not before the pandemic, but before like lockdown orders were issued. And I was so like, ugh. I was so like, honestly, like when the lockdown first started, I was kind of pissed off because I was like celebrating being able to like resume my life again. And yeah, I was like celebrating. There was so much things I wanted to do. There was so much things like, but you know what? It is what it is. Things happen for a reason. And I don't know, we may not know the full extent of the reasons yet, but it honestly is what it is. And I mean, even though like I'm technically going through the set and return now, officially, like back in the spring of like 2020, and even before then, I'll call it like the pre-shadow period, like how they do in like Mercury retrograde, which we're in right now. I believe we're in the pre-shadow period, and then next week is the start of Mercury retrograde. Okay, whatever. So yeah, like I feel like that was like a mini sort of Saturn return, like the last half of 2019, the first 3 months of 20, like that was like my like sort of Saturn return. And yeah, like even now, like I would say I feel like more gratitude because I'm healthy, I'm not homeless, my family is like doing okay. It's not perfect, it could be a lot of stress and a lot of trauma, but I just feel grateful. That's what I would say, because I can't imagine being like poor. Well, except part out, but I can't imagine like being homeless during this time. And like even yeah, like the energy like last year was so surreal, so weird. And quote unquote this year, like when I say quote unquote, I mean like okay, we'll go with this being a new year because logically, for tax reasons, for like world reasons, this is what we consider the new year, but whatever. But yeah, like this year, like I don't have any sort of expectations because again, like anything can happen at any time, which is terrifying, but it's also like that's life. Like 1 year you're good, 3 years you're horrible, 2 years you're good. Like it just goes back and forth, which is why I'm not really too into like these sort of like New Year's resolutions, because you set yourself up. That's what you do, you set yourself up. And yeah, like you don't want to set yourself up. Like I mean, if you want to have goals, but I don't know, like I feel like it could low-key be a setup if you don't meet your goals and expectations. And I also feel like it's more for show too. Like people just want something to like brag about, to show off on social media and to like prove to everybody like, yeah, get your mind up. Like, no, like it should be more about you and like what like you want to improve on and how you want to improve on. Like, but you know what, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing to like kind of show off, because you kind of motivate other people. Like, it's not necessarily like a bad sort of thing, but it could be like a sort of superficial thing. I don't know, whatever. But you know, like, I'm also like working on things for like my side hustle, AstroCard. Just working on new things and stuff like that. And I'm literally, my motto for like forever is just save and mind your business. Save and mind your business. Save and mind your business. Yes, you know, you could kind of like engage in like some tea and, you know, sip tea sometime and stuff like that, but like, just mind your own business. Like, again, like this year is very it's a continuation. This year's, at least from maybe like the majority of this year, I'm thinking maybe a continuation of 2020. But yeah, like a lot of people are stressed. A lot of people, like, you have to sort of put things into perspective, and I feel like this year helps with that. But also like what happened in 2019, and it's like, you know, life's a journey, life's not a waste. Yeah, but yeah, and I would say this, like, there's, in regards to like Uranus and Taurus, which is squaring, well, not exactly squaring, but it is squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Like, these are interesting times in terms of like social politics. And honestly, I stay away from like politics. I'm more of like a social issues interested type of person. And you know, politics now is very like polarizing, and me, like, I'm not like a contrarian. Like, I don't like to start drama or anything like that. Like, I feel like some sort of things should be like kept offline, but at the same time you do need to like make a stand with like certain things. Like, I like support the ideas behind Black Lives Matter. I don't necessarily like really like mess with like the movement, because like, to be honest, I don't trust those sort of things, because I feel like on both sides there's agitators. So like, you have to take like what is being put out in the media very like hesitantly. But I do support the ideas behind Black Lives Matters, and I did support it, and I see it more as like a human rights issue than just like a political issue or like even a social issue. Like, but you know, it's like very polarizing. And yeah, like, again, like, I'm not into like politics like that, but like, it is important. I would say it's very important, and it's very important to know where you stand, especially with Uranus and Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius, and even especially with United States Pluto return. Like, it has been like, I think like 250 years since Pluto was in Capricorn, and it was last, and like, I think it's gonna reach its exact point in 2024. So like, there's like talks of like revolutionary energy, which I can honestly see, because there's a lot of crazy shit that's going on like right now in this time frame. And I feel like with Pluto in Capricorn being like supported, trined Uranus in like Taurus, like perhaps we may see that, or maybe even in Pluto in Aquarius. But like I think prediction in astrology is very interesting, but as you know, like I tend to stay away from that. Not because like there isn't any validity or truth, but like I'm also like I believe in like God, and as a spiritual person, I think that like certain things like you don't, I mean, you leave in God's hands because he has like the answers, but at the same time, like again, anything can happen. Like in my mind, I'm wondering, like, if the pandemic didn't happen, would Trump still be in office? Or like because of the pandemic, like he's out of office? I don't know. Like, of course I could do research and I can find valid astrological reasons why, because this sort of thing, this sort of energy, because of the solar like eclipses and stuff like that, I could like say that. But at the same time, like there's so much factors, there's so much things going on, not just in the physical but also in like the spiritual like realms. And like I would say one thing is that we are in sort of like a spiritual warfare sort of like event, especially in regards to like technology and how like it's moving like sort of rapidly. Because my like Pluto like generation is Pluto in Scorpio, and for years social media we're seeing so much issues with privacy, which I think is a huge concern, a very like huge concern, especially in the next coming years. And like people like to say, oh, my rights are being taken away. Like I don't think these people are like crazy or like wrong, like, but at the same time I'm just observing. Like I'm an observer. Like I don't necessarily like put out my opinion in that way, if you know what I mean. But yeah, like especially us Pluto and Scorpio generation, we have a right to privacy. Like we like have a right to body autonomy. We have a right to just be, you know what I mean? Just be. Like, and regardless, all generations, we have a right to just be, to just live. But there are like other forces at work, and yeah, but I thought I would just do something very impromptu. Like I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this anytime soon, but I like to chit chat every once in a while. But yeah, I'm gonna hop off now, but thank you so much if anyone's listening. I don't know who's listening, but you know what, I'm listening. And check out my blog, theastrofiend.com, if you're interested in getting astrology flashcards, which are like amazing and good. Like you could go to my Etsy shop on astrocard.com. Well, not astrocard.com, but like Etsy astrocard. And like just be safe, save if you can. Like I don't know, I can't tell someone how to feel, but just be safe, protect yourself in the best way you know how. Protect yourself, don't let yourself be bullied or shamed by others. Like work on yourself, love yourself, be easy with everyone else, because we're all stressed. This is very new and uncertain, and I don't know, have fun, shake your ass, like smoke some weed if you want, like I don't know, Like, try to have fun in the most safest way possible. Like, don't be up in the club shaking your ass with 100 other people. Like, I mean, if you want to do that, but honestly, I'm side-eyeing you and judging you if you were to be doing all that. Anyways, bye. I'm rambling. Bye.